And when it's difficult to get into the housing ladder, and when it's difficult to find somewhere you can afford, shared ownership, of course, becomes a more and more popular option. Has anybody thought about buying with friends or family, rather than buying with a boyfriend or girlfriend or a spouse, about buying with friends or siblings in order to try and get on the ladder? A couple of people.
I haven't got any friends.
Is it there? It's obvious there must be pitfalls if you buy a house with friends. Can it work out well though?
It can work out. I know a friend for whom it worked really well, but I think the most important thing, if you go down that road, is to just set everything out on paper, legally, very formally, because things change. You know, you could buy somewhere with a friend. You know, in London it's probably quite popular just because it helps to buy with someone else and have those two incomes on the mortgage application. But I just think, you know, a lot can happen if you're both single at the time and then one meets someone else, they want out and they want to sell up. Where does that leave the other person? So if you have a contingency plan for most obvious scenarios, I think, and everything's laid down and financially, then, you know, it seems a bit strange to do that with a friend, but with something so important as such a huge cost and investment for both of you, I think it can work. But, you know, you need to be in agreement and have a pretty strong relationship, yes. I think.
What do banks think when friends come and want to buy together?
Yeah, most banks are pretty accommodating. You know, a lot of the lenders will allow up to 4 people to buy together. But I think probably the key thing you have to think through is if there is a change in circumstances, maybe the person you're with meets a new person or leaves or whatever, potentially loses their job or something like that, you are responsible you're kind of jointly responsible, so you would be responsible for making their share of the payments. So it's a big undertaking and you really need to think it through. But there is some big advantages. Like I say, it might be the only way you can do it.
And the banks don't recognise any difference in the split either, do they? So if someone says, well, I'll guarantee 60% of it and you can only afford 40%, the banks you don't recognise that, do you? It's just blanketly, it's joint responsibility, is that
It's normally joint responsibility, and like I say, you're responsible for the other person if they, for whatever reason, don't pay.
Because you do get a lot of people who say, well, I've got a little bit more money, so I'll put a bit more in and I'll take more ownership of it. Yeah. Well, that's
Which
not acknowledged by the bank. You can do it separately.
You can do it separately, you can do it legally, so that person will maybe own a bigger share of the house, but you'd need that all properly legally arranged.
Laura on Facebook actually wrote in and asked us, she says she wants to buy a flat with a friend, but one of us is putting in a much larger share of the deposit. How can we make sure it's fair, who gets what when we come to sell?
Yeah. So again, you would need proper legal advice, and you'd need to have that written out, that this is the circumstances, you own this share, if the house price rises up, this is how we'll split out any profit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a separate property deal away from the banks and everybody else, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you should think about the exit strategy, not the purchasing strategy.
It's like a prenup for housing, isn't it?
Yes.